Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexalex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. So we are coming up with the Dice Rally event. This is going to be, of course, the new event in Master Duel with Fusion, Xyz, and Link monsters. And as you can see here, I'm playing Mathmech for the event. Although Circular, Defensor, and Synapse Mining are going to be limited, we do have the Armored Bitron that I showed you earlier that is going to help us with consistency as we contribute that in order to special summon the Firewall Defensor from our deck. So I wanted to talk about this event and complete at least one board on screen. So that's what we're going to be doing today. This will actually be live gameplay, but due to a little bit of a goof up on my part, I screwed up the audio here. So unfortunately, didn't get in-game or my own audio. I still have the footage though, so I'm just going to commentate, post-commentate that is, and I will throw in some music here from the game as we're going into our first duel against a self-proclaimed Yu-Gi-Oh! Boomer. Good name there. But yeah, so Dice Rally event. I think this is pretty cool. I think it is a good way to shake up the just the event format, which is something that a lot of people have been wanting for a long time. This does definitely feel like Konami has heard us in that regard, as far as I know. I'm definitely not the only one who, when filling out surveys for events, has found themselves replying that events just feel really samey and that there needs to be something to switch it up. And I do acknowledge that there's only... Well, okay, I don't want to say there's only so much that can be done as far as, like, you know, you can only have so many different kinds of festivals. There are other more potentially creative limitations that you could put on things if you wanted to. Like, look at the duel trials, for example. There have been a ton of duel trials that I think people would love to see as full festivals, particularly time travel events, provided there were maybe some, or there were better loaners or more of a variety of loaners. I think people would be more on board with that being a festival. Of course, NR was just a trial. People would love to see that one again, even if that one's not like super original. But yeah, I think that a lot of us, myself definitely included, are getting sick of just the regular, like, oh, it's Fusion and Xyz this time, you know, for 2 weeks or however long the festivals last. And the Dice Rally, the board here, is a pretty fun way of shaking that up. We'll see more of the board itself, of course, after this game, or after we start winning some dice, because that's how the game works, of course, the event, that is. Once you win games, you earn points, and for every 500 points, you earn yourself a dice to roll, and you automatically just get 500 points for winning a duel. So basically, one duel win equals one dice. It's just that sometimes due to bonuses or maybe accumulating points from losses, you are going to end up with some leftovers. That might get you a second die every now and then. So I think this is definitely better than just the regular festival format, and it'll be interesting to see if Konami continues to keep this up. Now, granted, I would love to see more variety even in the future within the Dice Rally format, but I think even just up top, the idea of replacing just the current format of festivals with a Dice Rally board is definitely pretty appealing. So, to an extent, right? Because although it does allow for some potentially interesting play with some outside elements, it is still going to be by and large just whatever the current festival format is, right? So the majority of your time spent playing in an event like this is not really, you know, rolling dice on the board. In fact, that's definitely by far the minimum amount of time, or minimal amount of time, as opposed to the actual duels, the gameplay itself. So that is something that I am gonna note now and will be important to pay attention to moving forward, is that although the Dice Rally does offer, you know, a fun sort of in-game game element, like sub-game, there would definitely be some substance as far as the event conditions themselves. Now here for our first one, we won 2 dice, and I got stupid lucky here, rolling a 6, which lands me on a +2 to advance 2 spaces, landing on an SR for Blowback Dragon, and then I just rolled a second 6 casually, so that's pretty nice. I do like this element of landing on a space and then it comes with a card that starts in your hand or on your field. I think that's actually pretty fun. And that is the kind of thing that I would like to see more of in festivals in the future, right? Someone actually pointed out that it would be cool if you had this sort of Dice Rally Festival event where you had to start with loners and maybe the board was bigger and you kind of could build your deck by landing on certain spaces as you go. It reminds me of the dungeon run events in Hearthstone in that way, which were very widely regarded as very fun, where it was a very similar thing. You would start with one of a few pre-built base decks, and then as you played in the event, you would earn, cards as you go after each round. And I think that kind of a thing could be very fun in Master Duel. And I think there would even be a good amount of ways that you could, do something similar to the Hearthstone dungeon runs where, because a lot of them would not just give you one card at a time, but 3 cards at a time that would be part of a package, right? Of synergies or an archetype, just cards that worked well together, right? So imagine if they had the same kind of event that we have right now, Fusion Xyz and Link, and then you start with one of those loners, Fusion Xyz or Link, and then you could get packages of cards to support one of the summoning methods, and you could stay a pure Link deck, for example, but then if you saw a good Xyz monster, you can maybe grab that from a different, card pool. So I think something like that would be very cool. Casually getting our second one very quickly as soon as our opponent sees Mathmech cards. Rolling a 4, getting to land on a +2, advancing 6 spaces is pretty good. Now, we're going into our next game here, and I'm starting off with the Neospace Marine Dolphin. I thought to myself, okay, how's that going to work? It's not going to be in my hand. Is it just going to be in my extra deck? But no, the Neospace Marine Dolphin is actually going to be on my field, and believe it or not, this might be the most powerful card I could have rolled, because Neospace Marine Dolphin, similar to its main deck counterpart Aqua Dolphin, has an effect where by discarding a monster, or by discarding a card, I can look at my opponent's hand for a monster, and if there's one with less attack than a monster on my field, I can destroy it. So this is me kind of realizing, wait a second, Marine Dolphin is like Aqua Dolphin. Now, is this similar? You can even see my cursor, I'm reading the effect here. And I'm like, let's go, let's go. I'm super activating this before I do anything else. Discarding the Fuelos, getting to peek at our opponent's hand, and we see Ash Blossom amidst a bunch of Mermail Atlantean cards. So ripping our opponent's only hand trap right off the bat before even getting to start our combos here. The funny thing is, my hand actually isn't even that good because I only really have Firewall Guardian. I could normal summon it and potentially climb up to the Transcode Talker, but I decided to just go for the Armored Bitron here and maybe build up to maybe a Heat Soul or something. I guess I could get Dotscaper here is what I was thinking for the Terahertz, but as you see here, my opponent just snap conceded, which is funny because I didn't even have full Mathmech combo there, but that was the kind of shenanigans that I thought was really cool about the Dice Rally, is getting to start with Marine Dolphin there, and that I also think, again, would be very cool of an idea to explore moving forward, right, is something like that. Rolling a 5, continuing to get very good rolls there. Starting with a normal card this time is going to be a trap card, Level Conversion Lab, which is not really that great. And going into our next game here. So with the spell and trap cards, it seems like you start with them in your hand and the monsters just start on your field. That makes sense because you could get, my opponent had their... a level 5 vanilla monster. I don't know if it was actually level 5. I think it was level 5 or higher, but you could just get something like a level 5 weak vanilla monster that you would never summon. Or in my case, an extra deck monster you can't summon. Or in my opponent's case here, our opponent rolled a pretty nice extra deck monster in the Meteor Black Dragon, just casually starting off with something with 3,500 attack. Now with this opening hand, unfortunately, I don't really have any plays. I got a bunch of hand traps here. I did build my deck here to have a bunch of hand traps, 15 in particular, including the 3 Fulos, of course, because Maxi isn't legal. But Call By and Crossout are also not legal, which is something that I haven't really talked about yet. After playing these games, I thought about it a little bit, and I think I like to include at least a second triple tack to sort of shore up not having Call By and Crossout, which I think is interesting. I don't know. So I have said before, and I will stand by this opinion, that if Maxi is banned, then we can just ban Call By. I think that's definitely more than fine. Call By is more than just counterplay against hand traps. It's also just a really powerful disruption tool. And in that regard, I think it is just too good. Just the fact that it can also shut stuff off for the next turn is kind of insane, especially when it's a quick play spell, because it can, of course, shut out combos for not even the current turn, but even a follow-up turn as well. So I really do think that it is too strong and should go. However, I do see people at the same time calling for the ban of Crossout, and in some rare instances, I see people even advocating for the ban of Triple Tactics talent. I don't agree with those. I think limiting Triple Tactics talent like TCG is also, I guess in a best of 3 format, it does make a little more sense, but I don't really agree with it super. Here's the thing, right? I think Crossout could be fine at 1. I don't think that it should go to like 3 or anything, but I think that Crossout and Triple Tech should stay. I think there should be some amount of counterplay to hand traps. I'm not really sure why people are against that. Well, I don't know. I do have this idea, right? Because I see that as a pretty widespread en masse opinion. Of course, not one that everybody has, but one that I see a lot on like various, in various Yu-Gi-Oh communities and social media and stuff is, banning call by and cross out. Much like I've also seen similar complaints of like decks being able to play through multiple hand traps. I guess, to me, and I'm not speaking for everybody, and this interpretation could also be wrong, to me there seems to be this kind of, like, widespread opinion that if you go second and have hand traps, that should be enough to stop your opponent. I'm not really on board with that. Like, I've said this before, I think back to, like, Sword Soul format when that deck was tier 1, and we're going to cut here in a second, by the way, because my opponent is not only playing very slowly, but seems to be having connection issues. So don't worry, we're going to cut past that here in a moment. But, yeah, no, so as far as that goes, like I was about to say, like I said before, I think back to when Sword Soul was tier 1, and when it comes to having disruption in a format like that, if you have like a Valor or an Imperm, you kind of just end your opponent's turn and use that on Moye, right? And I've never enjoyed that. I don't like the idea of having one to negate, like one hand trap, and that just being able to stop my opponent outright. I don't think that's fun. I don't think it's skill intensive. And to me, again, from my interpretation of a lot of repeating comments I see online, it feels like a lot of people kind of want that, because again, they don't like decks being like Snake Eye being able to play through multiple hand traps. They don't like having counterplay to hand traps in the form of, I agree, call by is too powerful. Crossout, again, I don't think needs to be banned though. I think it's fine at 1. I think triple attack's fine to have around as well. To me, that just makes the game more interesting on both ends, right? Not even from me having to cross out a triple attack, but from my opponent. Again, even if I'm the one throwing out a Valor on my opponent's Moye, and that's enough to stop them completely, I'm yawning. That's a snooze fest to me. I don't want to play in a format like that. Again, I don't think it's particularly fun, because I don't think it's particularly skill intensive. So I think there's like a bit of a nuance, right? It's not so black and white, like a lot of opinions are kind of made out to be sometimes. But anyway, going back to the actual game at hand here, my opponent's on Snake Eye, and this is something that I kind of thought about playing myself, because the Snake Eye engine is pretty much untouched. It's mostly just the Fiendsmith engine has been hit, of course, and then there have been a couple of hits to some generic stuff like Appaloosa. But here's the thing, too. I think even if Appaloosa got banned, a deck like Snake Eyes, which does tend to summon it a lot, wouldn't even necessarily be like any worse for wear. Because I think there was, even if I remember right, in this past season, season 40, because we're in 41 right now, right? And season 40, the top 10 rating duels, I'm pretty sure one of the Millennium Snake Eye decks was not playing Appaloosa. Wasn't it on Firewall Dragon and Singularity instead? So I think you could probably still just do something like that instead of an Appaloosa, and the deck can still, I think just by being able to put out just the sheer number of bodies it can, there's definitely merit to playing Snake Eye, right? Of course, we even look at the OCG where Appaloosa's never been banned. The Snake Eye deck has always had access to it, and the deck's like, it kind of fell off naturally in power level after somewhat similar hits, actually, that we have to Master Duel here. Fairly similar, I think, except for Diabell Star is limited in the OCG. And then you compare that to the TCG, where Appaloosa isn't legal, but Snake Eye is actually kind of flourishing a little bit. Although, to be fair, they, I think, got their second copy of Ash and Poplar recently, which would definitely account for that. So Yeah, so on our last turn, we were able to pop off with a nib here a little bit. Well, no, sorry, on their last turn, we popped off with a nib a little bit as they went to Ash Blossom, Reviver Ash Blossom rather, with the Hita. Giving them a small token as well. I'm actually glad they used Temple on Oak there, because it did mean that it wasn't going to come out of my turn, but that also meant my triple attack wasn't live, and I really would have liked to have drawn 2 here to try to find some amount of plays. And as you can see, at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and concede, because I'm just tired of waiting for this person to make plays. I should have done this a lot sooner, or cut this duel down, admittedly. Sorry about that. But I'm going to make a cut here and skip past a bit of a lose streak I had. I think I lost, what, 3 games in a row there? Which was a little bit unfortunate and did kind of make me question my decision to include, to pilot Mathmech as my deck of choice for the Dice Rally. One of the games I played against there, I think, was against a Bestial Fiendsmith control deck, which I lost pretty quickly. You can imagine why. That one was a quick loss on my end, but that actually seems like it's pretty good, even with Fiendsmith hit in this format. I know Engravers at one. Oh, Moon is banned. That's the other Fiendsmith hit. Right, Moon of Closed Heaven is banned. Yeah, so here my opponent's going to be on Melodious, which is actually pretty much unhit in this format. We did open with the Foolos, and that combined with the extra card that we opened in hand is going to be very, very nice here. Look how many hand traps we got for going second here. Actually just insane. You know, like I said, especially without Max C, you definitely want to be playing a few more hand traps in this format than you might normally. Although, to be fair, 15 for Mathmech isn't, like, super ridiculous, and I could have pushed for more, but I decided to play more extenders, like a second copy of each Mathmech edition and Subtraction, because I wanted to make sure that I, well, of course, still had plays as well. And with Mathmech, if I open like a hand trap plus addition or subtraction, that's fine, because I can still, if nothing else, go into Terahertz off a hand like that. I will say for this build, I built it the same way I do my ladder Mathmech decks nowadays, which is I don't play Update Jammer or Mathmech Multiplication. Still not on either of those cards. I really just don't like playing either of them. I don't know what else to say. If I had to play one or the other, I'd probably play Update Jammer first. I'd put it in my extra deck and take out either Link Spider or the second Splash Mage. Probably the Link Spider. Well, no, but we need that to OTK. So it would have to be the second Splash Mage. And that's the thing. Like, the second Splash Mage is actually quite good and comes up a fair bit. So I'd rather just not play Update Jammer. Because, you know, you can still OTK with the G-Golem Crystal Heart plus Terahertz dumping an Earth Monster. That's why you need Link Spider. It's not just for Nibiru, but for setting up that particular OTK line. And that OTK line is also really easy to set up when you go second, because you can simply add the Mathmech equation off of the circular, and that gives you the extra body that you need to pull off the line. So even if you don't open an extender with your Mathmech plays, then you can still have, you know, some amount of plays here. Or not here, not because we're not in that situation right now, but in that situation in particular. The situation we're in right now is like actually not super great. We're pretty reliant on our top deck to be something good here, and it's a circular. It's actually just the best possible top deck it could have been. Casual Mathmech player, you know, just top decking the one of circular, even when it's limited. Although, to be fair, we could have also peeled Small World or the one of Silent Mining as well, but I won't deny it was very lucky. Very lucky. Yeah, I think that even if we lived in a world where Circular was at 1, Mathmech would still be a pretty solid deck. It would definitely be worse, don't get me wrong, because it'd just be less consistent. And Mathmech is already tier 3 and falling into Rogue as it is, so I really don't know if it needs to be hit. I mentioned this in my tier list, but I think if Mathmech is going to get hit, then it'll probably be because of... I don't know. I haven't really played with Malice. I know people who play Paper, or at least more often than I do, who have made mention that, like, oh, Mathmech Circular at 3 probably can't coexist with Malice. I don't know, like, how true that statement is. I could see it being the case, because obviously, like, Cyberstack, like, even if you're not focusing on the Mathmech stuff, just having access to that as an engine would be quite good. I know Ryzeo Mathmech is also a thing, but I also know that's definitely not the best way to play Ryzeal. Like, pure Ryzeal is definitely just much better. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if Circular ends up staying at 3. I'd be really interested to see if it does end up staying at 3, and then by the time Malice comes out, and see if that actually like impacts. Again, I'm you know, I don't have any real experience with Malice just yet, so I don't know myself. All right, so our opponent did throw out a Valor against the Alan Bershin here. It's not going to matter at all because we have the Firewall Guardian, and even if we didn't have Firewall Guardian, no, then it wouldn't matter because we could go into Terahertz, but we wouldn't be able to OTK. We would need at least that one extra body. I think we're actually going to do the OTK right now that I mentioned before. Yeah, we are. We're doing it right now to OTK, like I said before, without Update Jammer or the Mathmech multiplication. You simply need to basically combo as normal, right? You know, with the Splash Mage and the Link Decoder. You do need to go into the Link Decoder, going to the Transcode Talker, and then we activate Transcode Talker's effect and bring back the Splash Mage. Except at this point, we're going to actually link off the Transcode Talker plus the Splash Mage and a G-Golem Crystal Heart. That's pretty counterintuitive, so link a Link 3 and a Link 2 into just a Link 2, especially in this deck where we're used to Link climbing pretty much all the time. But with G-Golem, we can bring back Transcode, and then now between Link Decoder, Transcode, and the Firewall Guardian, we can then link off into the Terahertz, and then Terahertz can dump an Earth monster to make its attribute Earth, and then now thanks to the G-Golem effect, the Terahertz can attack twice and deals piercing, and gain 600 attack because there's a G counter on the card. So yeah, we battle into the Melodious monster. It's going to try to burn us, but we negated it with Imperm earlier in this turn, so no need to worry about that, and there it goes. So yeah, I would say that in this exact instance, the +1 card in hand played very much against my opponent. Because of how ridiculous our going second opening hand was. It was literally 6 hand traps, plus the random, what was it, like Needle Wall or whatever card got added to our deck there. Oh, it was, right, we're still in the lab because I'd hit my little lose streak there. But now we're out of that, so we're going to win, get a dice roll. And, here's the Needle Wall. I knew I had Needle Wall at some point, so having Needle Wall added to our deck. Not a particularly good card, but see, here's the thing. When you're only adding one card that's guaranteed to appear in the opening hand, I feel like it needs to be a little more curated. I guess that's true of the pools I was suggesting before, too. That is, I guess, kind of my one minor complaint, and it is a minor, about the whole, like, you know, landing on a space to have a card added to your hand, is that rather than it being just a total random card across the whole rarity, I do wish it was from a more curated pool, right? Like, it could even be a pool of, like, 50 or 100 cards or whatever, but because it does feel like sometimes you just end up with something that's totally useless, like that level conversion lab. Also, this Needle Wall, like, yeah, I can die roll and then maybe sometimes have a chance of destroying something, but I don't know. But it's, like I said, it's a minor complaint. I will definitely say it's a minor complaint. So here with this opening hand, we didn't really open any Mathmech stuff, but we did manage to open Dotscaper plus Parallel Exceed. And with Parallel Exceed, we do have the option to go into the Alan Bershin. So we're going to link off the normal summoned Dotscaper into Almirage. We get to bring back Dotscaper with its own effect, and then of course summon the Parallel Exceed. Alright, there's that, and then Dotscaper effect to summon itself, and then we're going to, of course, use the Parallel Exceed effect to summon another copy. And it's at this point that my opponent's going to end up using an Infinite Impermanence. There it is. I remember this game. Because I remembered I was kind of thinking to myself, like, I kind of wish I went to Lingaribo now. The reason I went to Almirage and not Lingaribo is because it's kind of important to save the Lingaribo if you can summon Almirage instead. Because then if you need to follow up combo with like Firewall Defensor, you can still play off of just normal summoning that. Because Firewall Defensor has more than 1,000 attack and can't go into Almirage as a result. But I thought about it some more, and I realized it was actually fine, even if I did go into Almirage there, because even if I had gone into Lingaribo, then they still could have fired off Imperm against... I'm trying to think here. So I would have gone... Like, if I had Lingaribo, Dotscaper, Parallel Exceed, summon another Parallel Exceed, go to Alimbertion. Alimbertion adds Circular, Dump, probably Diameter instead of Sigma, because I wouldn't be able to summon anyway. Then go into Splash Mage. I guess, to be fair, if I had gotten to Lingaribo, I was about to imply that there wouldn't be much difference in the combo line, but I would have been able to combo off, I think, at least a little bit more. I mean, to be fair, as you can see here, I'm already doing plenty of comboing. I get to go into a Terahertz, and I'm actually going to... I don't do this super often, but I'm actually going to pivot into Heat Soul before going into Terahertz, right? To get an extra draw in. I briefly considered just ending on Heat Soul Transcode Dotscaper, but ultimately decided that going into the Terahertz was better because it would set up multiple negates, and I thought that was better than getting one more draw. Especially because I do already have a couple of hand traps in hand, so it's not like I need like a ton more draws to try to get one. Like, if I had no hand traps at all in hand, then I would have definitely more heavily considered keeping the Heat Soul going into my opponent's draw phase to try to find one, but yeah, I've already got Valor and Ghost Spell, so setting up D-Save Worm, and then also having the option to dump Aggregator during their turn definitely feels a lot more appealing here. Alright, so it's time to see what they're on. They're going to lead with Bestial Lubellion. Oh, this might... Hang on. This might actually be the game against Bestial Fiendsmith deck that I was talking about earlier. Or it could be another deck. We'll have to see. Okay, so they're going to add Druiswarm. Druiswarm F activating here. They're going to try to banish my... what is it? Oh, the D-Save Worm, right. Definitely going to fire off the Ghost Spell here. Bestials are, of course, a lot of the reason why I like having Ghost Spell in Mathmech, not just for this event, but in general. If we're in a Bestial heavy format and you're playing Mathmech, then it's definitely better to consider playing the Ghost Spells. Okay, so here my opponent's going to play Dragon Maid Hospitality, revealing themselves to be on Dragon Maid. Special summoning the Parlor from hand, and then dumping. I decided not to use D-Save Worm here, because I knew I could Valor whatever was summoned, right? And then not only would it negate whatever the on-summon effect is, but they wouldn't be able to go battle phase into the one in the graveyard. And I also considered the possibility that my opponent might have another Spell Trap Extender that they're going to try to go into here. But if I remember right, what they actually end up going into is... whenever they decide to do it here. This is why, admittedly, it is a little bit awkward to post-commentate live gameplay. I do kind of see how the charm is lost a little bit. Because here I would probably normally be speculating about what they could be thinking about doing. Okay, they're actually going to tribute for the Druiswarm. I forgot about that. I'm going to be totally honest. I thought they went to another... They might still go into the play I'm thinking of here. But... yeah, with the Terahertz effect to negate anything activated during the battle phase, I'm like, okay, so they can't just run Druiswarm into my Terahertz here. If they try that, it's not going to go well for them. So they must be trying to summon something else and then go Druiswarm effect in order to send my Terahertz on top of whatever else they summoned. They could summon out Bestial Lubellion from the graveyard here, actually, but they don't end up doing that. I remember that they do not do that. Okay, that is what I thought. Yeah, they're going to actually overlay on top of the Druiswarm for the Typhoon Sky Crisis. This is not the first time I've run into this card at this event. One of the losses that I skipped was actually to this card. It's a scary card when you're playing Mathmech. It's a terrifying card because it outs your Terahertz, which you're always pretty much going to be ending on turn 1, and is one of your main OTK tools. And you also can't go into... Well, you can go into access code, but you can't activate the effect to increase his attack, which does make it a lot more difficult to win. But that is actually an out that I defer to sometimes against Typhon when I'm playing Mathmech. If I don't have access to an out besides link climbing, is I'll link climb up to an access code, but keep it at 2300 attack, just to be able to pop the Typhon. Alright, so addition's not really going to do much here by itself. Going to really hope to roll a 3 on this needle wall to pop the Typhon here. 6 is a reroll, and we hit a 1, which is not really going to be anything. Yeah, the face down card is a super factorial, which is not live. So at this point, I'm probably just going to end up conceding, because I don't even have Sigma in the graveyard. Well, I'm not conceding just yet. We're just going to pass here and see if they summon anything else besides Typhon. Because they could just go draw, battle, smack me for 2900 and pass back to me. So, yeah, in that case, we might still be in it. But I do remember that they do just have another summon here. It wouldn't take that much. Yeah, the Chamber Dragon Maid can add any Dragon Maid spell or trap. I'm just going to assume that's full combo on their part and just go ahead and concede here. So... unfortunate taking another L here in the Dice Rally event, but gonna go into this last game for the video here. Losing the die roll here, the coin flip, rather the die roll. It is a Dice Rally event, but no die rolls here for deciding who goes first. Losing the coin flip here, we're gonna be going second. Opening a couple of pretty solid hand traps, Valor Imperm, at half... being set at half life points, to be fair, is pretty good for me, considering my build doesn't play Update Jammer or Multiplication. Does make it a lot easier to OTK. Another one of the losses that I cut actually earlier in the video was to somebody who was playing Burn when they got the half life point, which I thought was kind of funny. I will admit that you can kind of like metagame and see like, oh, we're starting at half life points. Okay, I'll switch over to Burn now. Alright, so opponent going to lead with normal summon Fabled Lurie. So right now my first thought is using Valor or Imperm against the Lacrima if they decide to summon her, which they obviously probably will, because then of course Lacrima, she will not get to dump the Fiendsmith Engraver, and then my opponent will not only be down a body from the Fiendsmith line, but also has already used their normal summon on the Fabled Lurie, which means that they would need an extender that specifically special summons itself in order to actually be able to continue playing here. Of course, we'll get to that, yeah, whenever they decide to actually summon the Lacrima. Now, I'm going to specifically use Imperm first. Most of the time, I'd fire off Valor because Imperm could potentially not only be used during my turn before I play cards, but also I could set it and get an Imperm column. But, of course, I have the Small World in hand, and I do want to be able to reveal this effect Valor for the Small World. So... yeah, most times in pretty much any other situation, not just in any other deck, but even a lot of other situations in Mathmech, if I didn't have Small World in hand and I didn't want to keep my other monster, then yeah, I would fire off Valor before Imperm, but I want to keep the Diameter to combo with, and I want to reveal the Valor for Small World. So they're going to end up equipping the Requiem to the Lacrima, which is going to let them summon out the Necro Quip, which kind of looks scary at first, but again, without Engraver, doesn't actually extend them any bodies. So unless they have an extender in hand that can specifically special summon, they're not going to be able to continue playing. And sure enough, it looks like they're just going to end up setting at least one, looks like 2 cards face down, and then passing back over to me. So that actually went pretty well for me. You know, the one Imperm was enough to stop their plays there. As you can see, we actually didn't end up top decking a monster, so I am very glad I decided to keep the Valor in a hand like this. Second, Small World, obviously not ideal, but we'll make do. They're going to activate the Lacrima of the Crimson Tears effect from the graveyard here to bring back the Fiendsmith's Requiem, which is actually fine with me because I have a triple attack in hand, so... the Fiendsmith's Requiem is specifically only activated during the main phase, so this could go very well for me very easily here. We're going to lead off with the Small World, really praying they don't have an Ash Blossom, and they don't, so we get to reveal the Effect Valor. And I actually think I should have revealed Nib here instead of the Armored Bitron. I think there's a higher likelihood that would have been a better top deck than the Nibiru, but it doesn't super matter here. I will say if they did have an Ash Blossom for the Small World, it would have super come down to my triple attack draws. And I think it probably would have been draws? Yeah. Yeah, because I think I would have needed to combo more than anything else. And like, yeah, I could steal, but you know, for Mathmech, neither of these monsters my opponent has really help as far as like board building goes. So I think drawing probably would have been my best out. But we live in the world where the Small World resolved, so we are just going to pop off here. I should have chain blocked the other way, you know, circular chain link 1, diameter chain link 2. But I also don't super care if the circular gets negated here, which is kind of funny because my opponent has imperm and then decides to negate the circular. I actually would have been more annoyed if they negated diameter. Well, actually, it wouldn't have really mattered because circular was just going to grab equation here anyway. So I either get the body from the diameter summon or I get the body from the equation F. But either way, having the diameter on board means that I can not only overlay my diameter plus sigma into the Alimbertian, but of course the omni-negate effect of the diameter on the Alimbertian will be live. So now I could even like negate my opponent's Requiem and then triple attack them. Although to be fair at this point, I think I would just save the omni-negate for the face down card that remains, just in case it's a threat. Because I don't think Requiem doesn't equip, well, even if it did, Engraver isn't a quick effect. Like, there's not really anything threatening they can do with the Requiem here, I don't think. I decided to grab Mathmech Addition here, just in case I need a little bit of extra damage. I did, of course, activate Circular, which means I am locked into only one attack this battle phase. So if I end up in a situation where, for example, I'm stuck on like G-Golem plus Terahertz and that's all I can battle with, then if I have Addition, I could pump up the Terahertz, or not Terahertz, the Transcode Talker is what I meant to say. I could pump up the Transcode Talker up to 4,400, which could be enough to OTK in a situation where I might not otherwise normally be able to. So that's why I added Addition here instead of just like a Mathmech equation. But my opponent realizing that I can pop off and keep my Omni-Negate live without using it is going to just end up conceding here. So getting to take our W there, and we managed to save up enough points for 2 dice rolls here, rolling a 5, rolling up, landing rather on a +2, moving forward 2 spaces, getting a Mystic Ref panel, and then rolling a 4, getting exactly what we needed to reach the goal and finish our first board, which is pretty cool. So that was pretty good, you know, luck with the rolls there. Got pretty much exactly what I needed to finish the board. And like I said, I really just more than anything else wanted to complete at least one of these on screen. So here's my deck list one more time, and that is going to ultimately end up doing it for this video. If you want to see me do another board and actually get the live commentary this time, ideally let me know in the comments below and I'll try to do another one. But for the time being, that's going to go ahead and do it. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I super duper appreciate that. It is one of the best ways you can support any small YouTube channel. But thank you again so much for watching. Let's go ahead and move on now to the outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.